Kang Min-jun's hands wouldn't stop shaking. 3 years. 3 years of sitting at this table alone, pretending he was fine, pretending the grief didn't eat him alive from the inside. Today he decided it would be the last time. He stared at the empty chair across from him, Sophia's chair, and felt the weight of the small pill bottle in his jacket pocket. Just enough. Just peaceful. No mess for the hotel staff to clean up. He'd already written the instructions, transferred the accounts, arranged everything with a precision that had made him untouchable in his world. One more cup of tea. One more memory. Then silence. His hand trembled as he reached for the sugar cube. "Excuse me, sir." The voice shattered everything. Min-jun looked up, irritation flashing across his face before he could stop it. 2 identical girls stood beside his table. 10 years old, maybe. Dark braids, bright eyes, matching denim jackets over summer dresses. One had a small scar above her left eyebrow, the only way to tell them apart. The lounge seemed to hold its breath. No one approached Mr. Kang uninvited. Ever. "We're not supposed to talk to strangers," the girl with the scar said, glancing at her sister. "But this is an emergency," the other twin finished. Min-jun set down his teacup with deliberate slowness. Several nearby, guests suddenly found their desserts fascinating. His fingers had stopped shaking. "Interesting. I'm certain the staff can help you find your parents." "That's the problem." The scarred twin stepped closer, seemingly unaware she was approaching the most dangerous man in 3 districts. "See that man in the boring suit by the entrance?" Min-jun followed her gaze. The hotel's security manager, Mr. Pearson, was indeed watching them. Pearson's eyes met Min-jun's for a fraction of a second before he looked away, sweat visible on his forehead even from this distance. "He's going to kick us out because we're unaccompanied minors disturbing the ambience." She made air quotes with impressive sarcasm for a 10-year-old. "Then perhaps you should wait outside." "Our mom is on a really important phone call," the second twin said, desperation creeping into her voice. "Her boss is being totally unreasonable about her taking tomorrow off for our school thing. And if she loses this job, we can't afford." "Maya, stop." The first twin grabbed her sister's arm. "Maya." So the one with the scar was... Min-jun felt the pill bottle pressing against his ribs. He should send them away. Finish what he came here to do. End this. But his hands had stopped shaking for the first time in hours. "What exactly do you want from me?" he asked. The twins exchanged a look, one of those silent conversations that only siblings could have. "Would you pretend to be our dad?" the scarred twin asked. "Just for like 5 minutes, until our mom finishes her call?" Min-jun actually laughed. The sound felt foreign in his throat, rusty from disuse. Around them, people shifted uncomfortably. They'd never heard Mr. Kang laugh before. "Absolutely not. Please." Maya clasped her hands together. "You look sad. Sad people are usually nicer than happy people." The observation hit him like a fist to the sternum. He stared at this child who'd somehow seen through his expensive suit and controlled expression, past the reputation that made grown men stammer, straight into the hollow space where his heart used to be. Not sad. Destroyed. Finished. Done. Except his hands had stopped shaking. "That's Mia's superpower," the scarred twin. "She sees things about people." "And Mia's superpower is being bossy," Maya added. "I prefer natural leader." Min-jun glanced at the empty chair. At Sophia's chair. She would have loved these children, would have invited them to sit immediately, ordered them hot chocolate, made them laugh. What would Sophia want? Not this. Not the pill bottle. Not the ending he planned. "Mr. Pearson is coming over," Mia hissed. Indeed, the security manager was cutting across the lounge with purposeful strides, though his confident expression cracked with each step closer to Min-jun's table. Min-jun made a decision. Maybe the last good one of his life. "Sit down," he said quietly. The twins dropped into chairs so fast they nearly toppled backwards. "If you're already hooked, drop a comment below. Trust me, this gets better." "Mr. Kang." Pearson arrived, slightly out of breath, his voice careful and measured. "I apologize for the disturbance. These children were instructed. These are my daughters." Min-jun's voice could have frozen water. "Is there a problem?" Pearson's confident expression crumbled into confused apology. Every ounce of blood drained from his face. I wasn't aware you had." I don't advertise my private life. Min-jun lifted his teacup with steady hands now, no tremor at all. Protecting these strangers required the same armor he wore when handling his organization's affairs. We're having tea, unless the Meridian Plaza has started discriminating against families. Of course not. My deepest apologies, Mr. Kong. Please, enjoy your afternoon. Pearson bowed before retreating. The twins stared at Min-jun with something approaching awe. That was amazing, Maya breathed. You didn't even raise your voice, Mia added. How did you make him so scared? Min-jun selected a lemon tart from a stand, placed it on a small plate, and slid it toward Mia. Then another for Maya. His silence was answer enough. The pill bottle felt lighter in his pocket. Less urgent. We won't make you regret this. They spoke in unison, then giggled. Min-jun watched them devour the tarts with unrestrained joy. When was the last time he'd seen anyone in his presence experience something with such pure, uncomplicated happiness? People were usually too terrified. Sophia loved lemon tarts too. She was never afraid of me. The thought didn't sting as badly as usual. Strange. So why are you sitting alone at a table for four? Maya asked through a mouthful of pastry. Maya. That's rude, Mia whispered. It's okay to ask questions. Not sad questions to scary men. I'm not scary, Min-jun said, then reconsidered. Well, I am. But not to you. Why not? Mia tilted her head. Because you just saved my life without knowing it. I haven't decided yet, he said instead. Maya grinned like she'd won something. So why the big table? Min-jun surprised himself by answering. My wife used to sit there. He nodded toward the chair across from him. We came here every year on our anniversary. Both twins went very still. Even their chewing stopped. Used to. Mia asked softly. She died 3 years ago, today. Oh. Maya's eyes welled up instantly. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's certainly unbearable, Min-jun said, the honesty slipping out before he could stop it. Mia reached across the table and patted his hand with sticky fingers. The bodyguard position near the entrance shifted forward instinctively, but Min-jun shook his head slightly. Stand down. Our dad left when we were 5, Mia said. He said we were too expensive and too loud. He was wrong. Min-jun's voice went sharp, deadly. On both counts. Several guests flinched at his tone. The twins just smiled. That's what Mom says too. Maya's smile wobbled at the edges. A woman's voice cut through the lounge, breathless and panicked. Maya. Mia. Oh my God, I told you to wait by they. She appeared beside their table like a whirlwind in business casual. A black woman in her mid-30s, professional blazer slightly askew, phone clutched in one hand, purse sliding off her shoulder. Her eyes landed on Min-jun, widened in recognition not of him specifically, but of the type of man he was, then filled with protective fear. Girls. Come here. Now. Her voice shook slightly. Mom, it's okay. Mia protested. We asked him to pretend to be our dad so Mr. Pearson wouldn't kick us out, Maya explained with zero sense of self-preservation. The woman's face cycled through several shades of horror. She pulled both twins behind her, placing her body between them and Min-jun. I am so sorry, Mr. Kang. He stood slowly, watching her assess him. The tailored suit that cost more than most cars, the cold eyes, the way every staff member gave him excessive space. She was smart enough to be afraid, but brave enough to protect her daughters anyway. Min-jun. Mr. Kang. She swallowed hard. Whatever they did, whatever they said, they asked for protection from overzealous security. Min-jun gestured to the empty chairs. His voice softened slightly. They were very persuasive. We should go. She tugged the twins toward her. Min-jun felt the pill bottle again. If they left, he'd go back to his plan. Back to the ending. Actually, the word came out before he could stop it. The table is set for 4. Please, join me. The woman stared at him like he'd suggested jumping off the roof. Mom, he has chocolate eclairs, Maya stage whispered. And he's sad, Mia added. We can't leave sad people alone. Girls, this man is. She stopped, glancing at Min-jun, clearly trying to figure out how to explain danger to children without being rude. Complicated, Min-jun supplied. But not dangerous to you. You have my word. In his world. His word meant everything. She seemed to understand that, instinctively. "I'm Sophie," she finally said, not moving closer. "Sophie Rodriguez. And you've already met the Chaos Twins." "The chaos is actually refreshing." Min-Jun pulled out Sophia's chair now, and waited. Sophie hesitated, studying his face. Whatever she saw there made her shoulders relax fractionally. "I can't remember the last time someone offered me a seat," she said, finally stepping forward. "Or tea," Min-Jun added, signaling James over. "Or peace," Sophie finished, watching her daughters immediately start debating which pastries to try first. James appeared with fresh cups, his professional mask barely concealing his shock at seeing Mr. Kong with guests. Friendly guests. Smiling guests. "Another pot of Earl Grey, please," Min-Jun said. "And perhaps something more child-friendly? Hot chocolate with extra marshmallows," the twins chorused. "2 hot chocolates," Min-Jun confirmed. "Extra marshmallows." As James departed, moving faster than usual, Sophie pulled off her blazer and draped it over her chair. Underneath, her white blouse had a small coffee stain near the collar. "Long day?" Min-Jun asked. "Long year." Sophie laughed, but it sounded tired. "My boss doesn't believe in work-life balance. Or balance of any kind, really. I've been trying to get tomorrow afternoon off for 6 weeks." "What's tomorrow?" "Father-daughter dance at school," Mia said, sipping her hot chocolate. "But we don't have a dad, so Mom's taking us." "Which is fine," Maya added quickly. "Mom's the best." Sophie's smile was strained. "They've been asking every man we meet to come with us. The mailman, our neighbor, the guy who fixed our dishwasher." "We just want to fit in," Mia said softly. Min-Jun felt something crack inside his chest. Not break, crack. Like ice beginning to thaw. "Your daughters are remarkable," he said to Sophie. "They're everything." Sophie's voice cracked slightly. "Some days they're the only reason She stopped, glancing at the twins. Min-Jun understood completely. "Some days they're the only reason I get out of bed." Except he hadn't had a reason. Until 5 minutes ago. "Your wife," Sophie said carefully. "I'm sorry. That must be impossible," Min-Jun supplied. "The word you're looking for is impossible." "Yes." Sophie nodded. "When their dad left, people kept saying it would get easier. They were lying. People lie about grief constantly." Min-Jun's hand drifted toward his jacket pocket, then stopped. "As if there's a timeline. A schedule." His voice had gone rough. Sophie reached across the table, not touching him, just close enough that her presence registered. "But you still come here," she said softly. "Every year. Same table. I don't know how to stop. Maybe you're not supposed to stop. Maybe you're just supposed to add more chairs." Min-Jun looked at the twins, then at Sophie, then at the 4 chairs around this table. In his pocket, the pill bottle felt like a mistake now. A close call. A path not taken. "That's terrifying," he admitted. "Yeah." Sophie smiled. "Most good things are." The twins negotiated the last macarons with elaborate fairness. Sophie sipped her tea with visible relief. Min-Jun sat among them, his hands completely steady now, and felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. The violin quartet transitioned into something softer, more intimate. Around them, the lounge had resumed its elegant rhythm, though Min-Jun noticed several guests still stealing glances at his table. Let them look. Let them wonder why Kong Min-Jun, a man who controlled half the city's underground operations through fear and calculated violence, was sharing tea with 2 children and their exhausted mother. He didn't care anymore. "So what do you do, Mr. Kong?" Sophie asked, wrapping both hands around her teacup. The twins looked up from their hot chocolate, marshmallow mustaches forgotten, suddenly interested in adult conversation. "I manage certain interests," Min-Jun said carefully. "Business ventures that require discretion." "That's a fancy way of saying something mysterious," Mia observed. Maya leaned forward, eyes sparkling. "Are you a spy?" "Maya." Sophie's face flushed. "That's incredibly rude." "It's fine." Min-Jun almost smiled. "I'm not a spy. I'm more of a problem solver." "What kind of problems?" Mia asked. "The kind people prefer not to discuss over tea and pastries." Sophie shifted uncomfortably, clearly trying to change the subject. "The girls mentioned you've been coming here for years. The staff seems to know you well. I own the hotel." The admission slipped out before Min-Jun could stop it. Sophie's teacup paused halfway to her lips. "You own the Meridian Plaza?" among other properties. Min-jun selected an eclair with deliberate casualness. It seemed practical. I spend considerable time here. Because of your wife, Mia said softly, her superpower kicking in again. Min-jun nodded. This was our place. Our tradition. She loved the tea service, the view, the music. He gestured around the lounge. I kept it exactly as she remembered it. That's romantic, Maya sighed. That's grief, Min-jun corrected gently. Romance implies hope. This is just remembering. Sophie set down her cup, her expression shifting from polite interest to genuine empathy. How did you meet her? No one had asked him that in 3 years. People either avoided mentioning Sophia entirely or offered meaningless condolences. But Sophie's question felt different, not intrusive, just curious. Human. At a restaurant, Min-jun said. I was conducting business. She was the chef. She cooked. Mia's eyes widened. Brilliantly. She could make anything taste like heaven. Min-jun's voice softened despite himself. I went there every week for 6 months before I had the courage to speak to her. 6 months. Maya giggled. That's a long time to be shy. I wasn't shy. I was terrified. Min-jun met Sophie's eyes. She was light. I was not. I couldn't imagine why she'd waste time on someone like me. But she did, Sophie said quietly. She did. For 7 years, she made me believe I could be different. Better. Min-jun's hand tightened around his teacup. Then she got sick. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months from diagnosis to, he stopped, unable to finish. The twins had gone very still, their usual energy dimmed by the weight of adult sadness. Sophie reached across the table again, and this time her fingers brushed his. Just briefly. Just enough. I'm sorry, she whispered. So am I. They sat in silence for a moment, the quartet playing something melancholy and beautiful. James appeared with fresh tea, refilled their cups without a word, and disappeared again. What about you? Min-jun asked, needing to shift focus away from his own devastation. You mentioned a difficult boss. Sophie laughed, but it held no humor. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it. I run a catering company. Well, I work for a catering company. My boss, Richard, thinks 18-hour days and weekend shifts are building character. He sounds terrible, Mia declared. He is terrible, Sophie agreed. But he pays slightly better than my other options, and slightly better means the girls can stay in their school. So? She shrugged, exhaustion evident in the gesture. You went to culinary school? Min-jun asked. 2 years at the Institute of Culinary Arts. Top of my class. Pride flickered across Sophie's face, then faded. Then I got pregnant with these two, and fine dining doesn't really accommodate single mothers with twins. Your husband left when they were babies? Husband is a generous term. He was their father, technically, but he decided fatherhood required too much responsibility and not enough freedom. Sophie's jaw tightened. He signed away his rights when they were 5. Haven't heard from him since. Min-jun felt anger rise in his chest, cold, familiar anger. The kind that made men disappear in his other life. He's a fool, Min-jun said flatly. That's what I tell them. Sophie glanced at her daughters, who were now constructing an elaborate tower from sugar cubes. But they still ask about him sometimes. Wonder if he ever thinks about them. He doesn't deserve to think about them, Min-jun said, his voice harder than he intended. Sophie studied him carefully. You're very protective for someone who met us 20 minutes ago. I don't like injustice. Is that why you became a problem solver? Min-jun considered his answer. In truth, he'd become what he was through circumstances beyond his control. A brother to protect, debts to pay, violence that begot more violence until he stood at the top of an empire built on fear. But that wasn't a story for children's ears. Let's say I learned early that the world isn't fair, he said instead. And sometimes you have to make your own justice. That sounds lonely, Mia observed, her superpower striking again. It is, Min-jun admitted. Maya abandoned her sugar cube tower and climbed onto the chair beside Min-jun. She studied his face with unsettling intensity. You should come to our dance tomorrow, she announced. Maya, Sophie started. No, listen. Maya turned to her mother. He's sad and alone, and we need a dad for the dance, and he's really good at being scary to mean people like Mr. Pearson. Which might be useful if anyone's mean at school, Mia added. joining her sister's campaign. Girls, Mr. Kong has important things to do. He can't just. What do I have to do? Min Jun interrupted quietly. Sophie stared at him. I'm sorry, tomorrow. What would I have to do? You can't be serious. I rarely joke about anything. Min Jun looked at the twins, who were vibrating with excitement. What time is this dance? 3 o'clock. Mia practically shouted. At Riverside Elementary. We wear fancy dresses, Maya added. And there's punch and cookies and a photographer. And everyone brings their dad except us, Mia finished, her voice dropping. Min Jun should say no, should return to his world of calculated decisions and controlled environments. Should remember that he'd planned to end his life today, not complicate it further. But his hands were steady, his chest felt lighter, and these two girls looked at him like he could be something other than dangerous. I'll be there, he heard himself say. The twins erupted in squeals that made other guests turn and stare. They launched themselves at Min Jun, wrapping small arms around him in a double hug that nearly knocked him backward. Min Jun froze, unsure what to do with his hands. Then, slowly, carefully, he hugged them back. Sophie covered her mouth with both hands, eyes glistening. Thank you, she whispered when the girls finally released him. You have no idea what this means to them. And to you? Min Jun asked. Sophie's smile was complicated, grateful and suspicious, and hopeful all at once. I'm still trying to figure out if you're real or if I'm having the strangest dream of my life. I'm real. Min Jun pulled a business card from his jacket pocket, elegant black cardstock with silver lettering. Just his name and a phone number. Call me tomorrow with the details. Sophie took the card, her fingers trembling slightly. This is your personal number. Very few people have it. Use it wisely. I don't even know what to say. Say you'll save me a dance. The words came out before Min Jun could stop them, surprising everyone. Himself most of all. Sophie's eyes widened. A slow smile spread across her face, genuine and warm. I think I can arrange that. The girls bounced in their seats, already planning the entire event out loud. What they'd wear, what songs they hoped they'd play, how they'd introduce their dad to everyone. Min Jun should feel panic, should feel trapped, should feel the familiar urge to retreat into the cold safety of his controlled world. Instead, he felt something dangerously close to happiness. His phone buzzed. Multiple times. Urgent messages from his second-in-command, no doubt. Problems requiring his attention. Decisions only he could make. Min Jun silenced the phone without looking at it. I should let you get back to your afternoon, Sophie said, glancing at the ignored phone. I'm sure you have important. Nothing more important than this. Min Jun surprised himself with the honesty. They talked for another hour. About everything and nothing. Sophie's dreams of opening her own restaurant someday. The twins' latest school project about ocean conservation. Min Jun's admission that he couldn't cook anything beyond ramen. The way Sophia used to sing off-key in the kitchen while preparing elaborate meals. The afternoon light shifted from gold to amber to the deep purple of early evening. Finally, reluctantly, Sophie checked her watch. We really should go. The girls have homework, and I have an early event tomorrow. Before the dance? Min Jun asked. Morning, wedding. I'll be done by 2, just enough time to get the girls ready. Sophie stood, gathering her purse and blazer. Are you sure about tomorrow? You can change your mind, we'll understand. I don't change my mind. Min Jun stood as well, helping the twins with their jackets. 3 o'clock. Riverside Elementary. I'll be there. The twins tackled him with another double hug. Thank you, thank you, thank you, they chorused. Min Jun walked them to the elevator, his bodyguard following at a discreet distance. In the lobby, other guests parted instinctively, giving them space. Sophie noticed, her expression troubled. People are afraid of you, she said quietly as they waited for the elevator. Yes. Should we be afraid of you? Min Jun looked at her daughters, then at Sophie. No, never you. Why not? Because you saved my life today. Because these children gave me a reason to keep breathing. Because for the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than emptiness. Because I gave you my word, he said instead. The elevator arrived. Sophie herded the twins inside, then turned back. Min Jun. She used his first name for the first time, testing it carefully. Yes. I'm glad we interrupted your tea. Min Jun's throat tightened. If she only knew how much of an understatement that was. So am I. The elevator doors closed. Min-jun stood watching the numbers descend, feeling the absence of their presence like a physical thing. His phone buzzed again. 17 missed calls. 43 unread messages. Min-jun pulled out the pill bottle from his pocket, looked at it for a long moment, then walked to the nearest trash can and dropped it in. Sir. His bodyguard approached carefully. The situation at the warehouse requires your attention. They've been trying to reach you for hours. Handle it. Sir, with respect, they specifically requested. I said handle it. Min-jun's voice carried the edge that made men obey without question. I have more important things to do tomorrow. The bodyguard blinked, clearly shocked, but bowed. Yes, sir. Min-jun returned to his table. The tea service had been cleared, but the 4 chairs remained. He sat down, pulled out his phone, and did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He smiled at his reflection in the darkening window. Tomorrow he had a father-daughter dance to attend. Tonight, he had preparations to make, starting with figuring out what one wore to an elementary school event when one's usual wardrobe consisted entirely of intimidation and expensive suits. His phone rang, his second in command. What? Min-jun answered. Boss, we have a situation. The deal with the... Tomorrow. Handle everything tomorrow. But... That's an order. Min-jun hung up, scrolled through his contacts, found a name he hadn't called in months. Hello. A woman's voice surprised. Ji-woo. I need your help with something. Min-jun? Is everything okay? You never call, unless... Everything is fine. Better than fine. I need you to help me shop for something. Shop? You. For a children's event. Something appropriate. Not frightening. Silence. Then, who are you, and what have you done with Kang Min-jun? I'm serious. I can tell. That's what's terrifying me. Ji-woo laughed, but it sounded pleased. When do you need this? Tomorrow. 3 o'clock. That's cutting it close. I'm aware. This must be important. Min-jun thought of Maya's scar, Mia's superpower, Sophie's tired smile. It is, he said quietly. It's the most important thing I've done in 3 years. Then I'll make it work. Meet me at my boutique at 10 tomorrow morning. Thank you, Ji-woo. Min-jun? I'm glad you called. You've been... She paused, choosing words carefully. You've been gone for a long time. It's good to hear you sound alive again. After they hung up, Min-jun sat alone in the lounge as it emptied around him. The quartet packed up their instruments. James approached with a check, which Min-jun waved away. He owned the hotel, after all. Good evening, Mr. Kang, James said. Will we see you next year? Min-jun considered the question. Next year. He'd been so certain there wouldn't be a next year. Yes, he said, but I might not be alone. James's professional mask cracked into a genuine smile. I'm very glad to hear that, sir. Min-jun left the hotel and climbed into his waiting car. His driver knew better than to ask questions, simply pulled into traffic and headed toward Min-jun's penthouse. As they drove through the city, his city, the one he controlled through networks of loyalty and fear, Min-jun realized he'd spent the entire afternoon not thinking about his organization, not thinking about territory or profit or the constant calculations that kept him in power. He'd just been a man, having tea, talking to a woman and her daughters, being human. It felt terrifying and wonderful and completely foreign. His phone buzzed with another message. This time he looked. Unknown number. Thank you again for today. The girls haven't stopped talking about you. Sophie. Min-jun stared at the message, tried to think of an appropriate response. Everything felt too formal or too casual or too revealing. Finally, he typed, Thank you for trusting me with them. See you tomorrow. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, looking forward to it, Min-jun saved her number, looked at it for a long moment, then did something impulsive. He opened his photos, something he rarely did, as they were all of Sophia. Found his favorite, her laughing in this very lounge, sunlight catching her hair, absolutely radiant. He studied her face, her joy, her light. I met someone today, he whispered to the photo. Actually, I met 3 someones. 2 little girls and their mother. They're remarkable. Sophia's frozen smile seemed to approve. I think you'd like them. I think. Min-jun's voice cracked. I think you'd want me to be happy. Even if it means moving forward. Even if it means filling the empty chair. The photo didn't answer, of course. But Min-jun felt something shift inside him. Permission, maybe. Or acceptance. Or just the first tentative step toward letting go without forgetting. I'll always love you, he promised. But I think I'm ready to try living again. The car pulled up to his building. Min-jun climbed out, phone in hand. Sophia's smile still glowing on the screen. Tomorrow he'd attend a father-daughter dance. He'd probably be terrible at it. The other parents would likely recognize him and be terrified. He'd stick out like a wolf at a puppy party. But Maya and Mia would be happy. And Sophie would smile at him with those warm, knowing eyes. And for a few hours, Kang Min-jun wouldn't be a mafia boss or a feared criminal or a grieving widower. He'd just be Min-jun, a man trying to figure out how to be good for people who deserved goodness. It was the scariest thing he'd done in years. He couldn't wait. Min-jun stood outside Riverside Elementary at exactly 2:55 p.m., feeling more nervous than he had during any business negotiation in his entire life. Ji-woo had done well. Instead of his usual black suits, he wore charcoal slacks, a soft gray sweater, and a wool coat that made him look almost approachable. Almost. His bodyguard waited in the car half a block away, under strict instructions to remain invisible. Parents streamed past him into the gymnasium, most offering polite smiles before recognizing something in his bearing that made them hurry along. A few fathers nodded respectfully, the kind of respect that came from recognition, not friendship. Min-jun checked his phone. 2:57 p.m. His second-in-command had called 6 times this morning. Min-jun had ignored every call. Min-jun. He turned. Sophie was rushing toward him, slightly out of breath, looking absolutely beautiful, in a simple navy dress. The twins flanked her, matching in pink dresses with white cardigans, their braids adorned with ribbons. You came, Sophie said, and he heard genuine surprise in her voice. I said I would. I know, but I thought maybe you'd wake up and realize this was completely insane. It is completely insane, Min-jun agreed. I came anyway. Maya grabbed his hand. You look nice. Not scary at all. Well, maybe a little scary, Mia added. But like good scary. Like a superhero. Min-jun looked down at these two girls who'd saved his life without knowing it, and felt something warm expand in his chest. Shall we? He offered his arm to Sophie. She hesitated, then slipped her hand into the crook of his elbow. Fair warning. This might be awkward. Elementary school events are a lot. I've handled worse. Have you handled 40 10-year-olds hopped up on punch and cookies? Point taken. They entered the gymnasium together. Streamers hung from the ceiling in pastel colors. A DJ set up in one corner was already playing age-appropriate pop music. Tables lined the walls, covered in snacks and decorations. Parents and daughters filled the space, laughing and taking photos. The moment they entered, conversations died. Every parent within eyeshot turned to stare. Min-jun felt Sophie tense beside him. Everyone's looking, she whispered. Let them look. A woman approached, mid-40s over-styled hair, clearly the PTA president based on her clipboard and air of authority. Sophie, so glad you could make it. Her eyes slid to Min-jun, widened slightly, then snapped back to Sophie with practiced politeness. And this is Min-jun, Sophie said, her voice steadier now. The girl's father. The lie came out so smoothly that even Min-jun almost believed it. Oh, I didn't realize you were. The woman's smile became strained. How wonderful. Welcome, Mr. Kang. Mr. Kang. Please, enjoy the festivities. She retreated quickly, already whispering to another parent. That was Mrs. Patterson, Sophie murmured. School gossip extraordinaire. By tomorrow, everyone will know you exist. Does that bother you? Sophie considered the question. Ask me in 24 hours. The twins dragged him toward the dance floor, where other father-daughter pairs were already swaying to the music. Min-jun stood frozen, suddenly aware he had no idea how to dance with children. Just hold our hands and sway, Mia instructed. It's not complicated. Unless you want to spin us, Maya added. Spinning is fun. Min-jun took their hands carefully, as if they might break. The girls giggled and started bouncing to the music, pulling him into their orbit. And just like that, He was dancing at an elementary school father-daughter event. Around them, other parents stared. Some whispered. A few fathers nodded in recognition. Men who knew exactly who Kang Min-jun was and were smart enough to keep their distance. But the twins didn't notice. They were too busy teaching him their version of dancing, which involved a lot of spinning and jumping and absolutely no regard for rhythm. Min-jun found himself laughing. Actually laughing. Sophie watched from the sidelines, her phone out, capturing photos. When the song ended, Min-jun walked over to her. "Your turn," he said. "What?" "Dance with me." "Min-jun, this is a father-daughter dance. And you've been both mother and father to them for years. Dance with me." Sophie's eyes glistened. She let him pull her onto the floor just as a slow song started. Min-jun placed one hand on her waist, took her hand with the other, and began to lead. "You can actually dance," Sophie said, surprised. "My wife taught me. She said every man should know how to dance with the woman he loves." They swayed together, aware of the stares, but no longer caring. "This is insane," Sophie whispered. "Yesterday, I didn't know you existed. Today you're dancing with me at my daughter's school. Do you want me to leave?" "No." She looked up at him, and Min-jun saw something fragile and hopeful in her expression. "I really don't." "Good. Because I'm not going anywhere." The twins appeared beside them, each hugging a leg. "Can we get cookies now?" Maya asked. "Please." Mia added. Min-jun and Sophie broke apart laughing. "Go ahead," Sophie said. But only two each. The girls raced toward the snack table. Min-jun and Sophie followed at a more sedate pace. "They adore you already," Sophie observed. "You realize that's dangerous, right?" "How so?" "Because when you disappear back to your complicated life, they're going to be heartbroken." Min-jun stopped walking, turned to face her fully. "What makes you think I'm going to disappear?" "Because men like you don't stick around for women like me. Men like me, powerful, wealthy, clearly involved in things you won't discuss." Sophie's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm a single mother working 2 jobs to make rent. We live in completely different worlds." "We did," Min-jun agreed. "Until yesterday, when your daughters asked me to pretend to be their father, and I realized I didn't want to pretend. I wanted it to be real." Sophie stared at him, speechless. "I'm not good at this," Min-jun continued. "At being vulnerable or open or any of the things normal people do easily. My life is complicated and sometimes dangerous and definitely not suitable for children. But, Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. "But I haven't felt this alive in 3 years. And I think," he paused, choosing words carefully, "I think Sophia would want me to try, to be happy, even if it's messy and imperfect and terrifying." "This is terrifying," Sophie agreed. "Then we're terrified together." A camera flash went off nearby, the school photographer capturing the moment. Min-jun barely noticed. "I have conditions," Sophie said finally. "Name them." "First, no lies to the girls. If this doesn't work out, we tell them honestly. They've had enough abandonment for one childhood." "Agreed." "Second, I need to know what you actually do. Not details, but enough to know if my daughters are safe around you." Min-jun took a breath. "I run an organization that operates outside legal boundaries. I manage territory, solve disputes, and ensure certain business ventures remain profitable. I've done things I'm not proud of, hurt people who deserved it and some who probably didn't. But I have rules. No drugs near schools. No violence against women or children. And I protect what's mine." "And if we become yours?" Sophie asked quietly. "Then I protect you with everything I have." "Which is considerable." Sophie processed this information. Min-jun waited, prepared for her to walk away. To protect her daughters from the darkness he carried. "Third condition," she said instead. "You have dinner with us. At our apartment. Not some fancy restaurant. Our home. You see how we actually live, and you decide if you can handle the chaos." "When?" "Tomorrow night. 6 o'clock." Sophie pulled out her phone. "I'll text you the address. I'll be there." "You keep saying that. Showing up." "I will keep showing up," Min-jun promised. "For as long as you'll let me." The twins returned, cookies in hand, chocolate already smeared on their faces. "We got you one." Maya held up a cookie for Min-jun. "And one for Mom." Mia added. They spent the next 2 hours at the dance. Min-June spun the twins until they were dizzy, posed for countless photos, made small talk with other parents who were clearly terrified but too polite to show it, watched Sophie glow with happiness as her daughters finally got to experience what other kids took for granted. As the event wound down, families began filtering out. Min-June helped the twins with their coats, Sophie gathering their things. "Can Min-June come home with us?" Maya asked. "Not tonight, sweetie. He has work." "But tomorrow?" Mia pressed. "Tomorrow he's coming for dinner," Sophie confirmed. The twins erupted in cheers loud enough to make other parents turn and stare again. Outside, the late afternoon sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. Min-June walked them to Sophie's car, a beat-up Honda that had seen better days. "This is us," Sophie said, almost apologetically. "It runs." "Most of the time." "Good enough." The twins climbed into the back seat, still chattering excitedly. Sophie lingered by the driver's door. "Thank you," she said, "for today, for showing up, for making them happy. Thank you for letting me." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, neither quite sure how to say goodbye. Finally, Sophie stood on her tiptoes and kissed his cheek. Brief. Warm. Perfect. "Tomorrow. 6 o'clock. Don't be late." "I won't." Min-June watched them drive away, his hand touching the spot where her lips had been. His phone rang immediately, his second in command. "Yes. Boss, we need you. The situation has escalated. Handle it." "I can't handle this alone. We need your authority." "Then make the decision yourself. That's why I pay you." "But I'm busy." Min-June hung up. He climbed into his own car, where his bodyguard waited. "Where to, sir?" "The flower shop on 5th Street, then the toy store on Madison, then home." The bodyguard's expression remained neutral, but Min-June caught the slight raise of his eyebrow. "Flowers and toys, sir? Do you have a problem with that?" "Not at all, sir." They drove in silence for a moment. "Sir, if I may ask, what happened yesterday?" Min-June thought about the question, about the pill bottle in the trash, about 2 little girls who'd seen through his armor straight to his broken heart, about a woman brave enough to give him a chance despite knowing he was dangerous. "I remembered how to live," he said simply. The next evening, Min-June stood outside a modest apartment building in a neighborhood he technically controlled but had never actually visited. He held a bouquet of flowers for Sophie and 2 wrapped presents for the twins. He was 15 minutes early. At exactly 6 o'clock, he knocked. The door flew open immediately. Maya and Mia stood there, still in their school uniforms, faces lighting up. "He came," they shouted in unison. "Of course I came." Min-June stepped inside, taking in the small but tidy apartment. Mismatched furniture, photos covering every wall, the smell of something delicious cooking. "I said I would." Sophie emerged from the kitchen, wearing jeans and a sweater, hair pulled back, completely beautiful. "You brought flowers," she said, taking the bouquet. "And presents." Mia pointed to the wrapped boxes. "Those are for after dinner," Sophie said firmly. "Min-June, make yourself comfortable. Dinner's almost ready." The twins dragged him to the couch, showed him their school projects, their favorite books, their collection of rocks from the park. Min-June listened to everything, asked questions, genuinely interested. Sophie called them to dinner, a simple meal of roasted chicken, vegetables, and rice. They sat around a small table that barely fit 4 people. "We usually say grace," Maya said. "Is that okay?" "Of course." They held hands around the table. Min-June found himself between Mia and Sophie, their hands warm in his. "Thank you for this food," Maya recited. "And for our family. And for bringing Min-June to us." "Amen." "Amen," they echoed. Min-June's throat tightened. Family. When was the last time he'd been part of a family? Dinner was chaotic. The twins talking over each other. Sophie mediating disputes about who got the last roll, laughter and warmth filling every corner. Min-June couldn't remember the last time he'd experienced something so normal and so perfect. After dinner, the twins opened their presents, art supplies for Maya, a science kit for Mia. They thanked him with fierce hugs that Min-June was getting better at accepting. Sophie put them to bed at 8, reading them a story while Min-June cleaned up the kitchen. When she emerged, She found him drying dishes, looking completely out of place in his expensive sweater, surrounded by her mismatched plates. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I want to." They worked in comfortable silence, washing and drying together. "So," Sophie said, eventually, "still think you can handle the chaos?" "I think the chaos might be exactly what I need." "They're going to get attached. Really attached." "I'm already attached." Sophie set down her dish towel, turned to face him fully. "I need to know this is real, Min-jun. I can't let my daughters fall in love with someone who's going to disappear when things get complicated. I'm not going anywhere." Min-jun stepped closer. "I spent 3 years believing my life was over. Then 2 little girls asked me to pretend to be their father, and I realized I didn't want to pretend anymore. I want this. All of it. The chaos and the complications, and the mismatched furniture and the simple dinners. I want you and Maya and Mia. You barely know us. I know enough. I know you're brave and strong, and you've built something beautiful despite impossible odds. I know your daughters are remarkable, and they deserve a father who shows up. I know that for the first time since Sophia died, I feel like I have a reason to wake up in the morning." Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "This is insane," she whispered. "Completely insane," Min-jun agreed. "I have baggage, debt, an ex who might show up someday, a boss who will absolutely make my life difficult if I take any more time off. Give me his name." "Min-jun, I'm serious. Give me his name, your debt, any problem you have. Let me help." "I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Min-jun took her hands. "Let me be part of this. Please." Sophie studied his face for a long moment. Whatever she saw there made her decision. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay, but we go slow. The girls need stability, not a whirlwind. As slow as you need. And you have to promise, if this gets too real, too messy, too much, you tell me. You don't just disappear. I promise." Sophie leaned forward and kissed him. Not on the cheek this time, but properly, softly, full of possibility. When they broke apart, Min-jun was smiling. "What?" Sophie asked. "I haven't been kissed in 3 years." "How was it?" "Worth the wait." They moved to the couch, talking until midnight about everything. Her dreams of opening a restaurant, his guilt about his organization, how to blend their impossibly different worlds. Min-jun was honest about his work, the dangers, the moral ambiguity. Sophie listened without judgment, asking questions, setting boundaries. "I don't want the girls exposed to anything violent," she said firmly. "They won't be, ever. And if your work puts us at risk, then I'll handle it. That's what I do. I handle problems." "What if the problem is you?" Sophie asked quietly. Min-jun considered this. "Then I walk away. I disappear from your lives completely. Because keeping you safe matters more than my happiness. That's not what I want. What do you want?" "I want you to stay. I want the girls to have a father who loves them. I want." Sophie paused, vulnerable. "I want to not be alone anymore." "Then let me stay." 5 months passed. Min-jun became a fixture in their lives. Sunday dinners, school pickups, bedtime stories. He taught the twins basic Korean phrases, helped with homework, attended every school event, gradually becoming less terrifying to other parents. His organization ran smoothly despite his reduced hours. Turned out delegating actually worked when you had competent people. Sophie quit her catering job. Min-jun helped her start her own company, not charity, but a proper business loan with strict repayment terms because Sophie's pride demanded it. Within 3 months, she had more clients than she could handle. They hadn't defined what they were, not officially, but Min-jun kept a toothbrush at the apartment. Sophie had a key to his penthouse. The twins called him Min-jun, but introduced him as our dad to anyone who asked. It was messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. Then, one Tuesday in October, Mia fell at school. Broke her arm badly enough to require surgery. Min-jun was in the middle of a critical meeting when Sophie called, voice shaking. "They're taking her to Mercy Hospital. I'm stuck across town at an event. I can't get there for at least an hour. I'm already leaving." Min-jun stood, collected his coat, and walked out while his associates sat in stunned silence. He'd never left a meeting early, ever. He reached the hospital in 20 minutes, found Mia in the ER, terrified and in pain. Maya sat beside her, trying to be brave. Min-jun. Mia's face crumpled with relief. It hurt so much. I know, sweetheart. But the doctors will fix it. He took her good hand, let her squeeze as hard as she needed. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. The nurses tried to make him leave. Family only. Min-jun's expression stopped them mid-sentence. I am family, he said quietly, but with absolute authority. They didn't argue. He stayed through the x-rays, the discussions with surgeons, the terrifying wait during the procedure. When Sophie finally arrived, breathless and panicked, she found Min-jun in the waiting room with Maya asleep against his shoulder. How is she? Sophie asked. Surgery went well. She'll be in recovery soon. Min-jun stood carefully, transferring Maya to a chair. The surgeon said she'll heal perfectly. Sophie collapsed into his arms, sobbing with relief. Min-jun held her, stroking her hair, murmuring reassurances. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? When Mia woke up, groggy from anesthesia, she looked around the hospital room at Min-jun, Sophie, and Maya. We're all here, she said, smiling despite the pain. The whole family. Min-jun felt something click into place. This was his family now. These 3 people were his reason for everything. 3 weeks later, on a crisp November evening, Min-jun took them all back to the Sapphire Lounge. The table for 4 waited, just as it always had. But this time, every seat would be filled. The twins, now more mature, more confident, sat with practiced elegance. Sophie, in a beautiful dress Min-jun had insisted on buying, looked radiant. James served them with a knowing smile. It's good to see you all together, Mr. Kong, he said quietly. Min-jun looked around the table, at Maya's bright eyes, at Mia's cast, covered in signatures and doodles, at Sophie's warm smile. 3 years ago, he'd sat here alone, planning to end his life. Now he sat surrounded by the people who'd saved it. Sophie, he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Mia, I have something to ask you. He pulled out a small box, not just 1 ring, but 3. A beautiful diamond for Sophie. 2 delicate gold bands for the twins. The lounge seemed to hold its breath. I know we've only known each other for months. I know this is fast and probably crazy. But Min-jun looked at each of them in turn. You 3 are my family. You've been my family since the day you walked up to this table and asked me to pretend to be your dad. The twins were already crying. I don't want to pretend anymore, Min-jun continued. I want to make it real. All of it. He turned to Sophie, opened the box. Will you marry me? Will you let me be a real dad to your daughters? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making you happy? Sophie covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. The rings for the girls, Min-jun explained, are a promise. That I will always be there. Always show up. Always love them as my own. Yes. Maya shouted, too excited to whisper. Obviously yes. Mia added. Everyone laughed through their tears. Sophie took Min-jun's face in her hands. You showed up, she whispered. You kept showing up. I always will. Then, yes. 1,000 times yes. Min-jun slipped the ring onto her finger, then carefully placed the bands on each twin's finger. Promises made in gold and love. The lounge erupted in quiet applause. Other guests smiled. James wiped his eyes discreetly. The quartet began to play. The same song that had played when Sophia sat in this chair years ago. But this time, it didn't hurt. This time, it felt like a blessing. Like permission to be happy again. Min-jun stood, offered his hand to Sophie. Dance with me. They swayed together, the twins joining them, all 4 of them moving to the music as a family. Min-jun caught his reflection in the window, no longer alone, no longer broken. Just a man who'd found his way back to life through 2 brave little girls and their remarkable mother. I love you, he whispered to Sophie. I love you too. The empty chair was filled, the table complete, and Kong Min-jun, the feared Mafia boss who controlled half the city, felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs hope today.